Hey you, you're finally awake. We were trying to make Skyrim recipes in real life, remember? You know I had to do it. I had to do the bit. Don't tell me you didn't enjoy it. It is time to enter the world of the Elder Scrolls and venture to Skyrim, because today we are living like a true Nord.
Oh wait, you serious?
We're going to be making several classic recipes found throughout Skyrim. Ooh. Ooh.
Wow.
I will be using the Elder Scrolls Cookbook for these recipes. I believe there is a volume 2 to this as well, but I'm going to be using the original one. I will also warn you ahead of time, I was just getting over a sickness when filming this video, so my voice is a little bit raspy at times. Every 10th word came out as a whisper, just randomly, so you're gonna see that a little bit throughout the video. Today it is a bit better, but it's still not 100%, as you can probably tell. Please forgive me for that, and without further ado, let's get into the video. What better way to start off a Skyrim food video than with a recipe that involves a ton of cheese, specifically in this case, Eater cheese wheels. In my opinion, one of the most iconic food items in Skyrim is the cheese wheel, because literally nothing beats inhaling 7 cheese wheels to heal yourself after fighting a dragon. I'm always like pockets full of cheese when I'm running around Skyrim. And the recipe that involves these cheese wheels is Elsewire fondue. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The in-game recipe for this fondue also includes the illegal but delicious Khajiit treat, moon sugar. And because of the inclusion of moon sugar in this recipe, it tends to be one of the more difficult recipes to make because moon sugar isn't that easy to come by unless you know the correct vendors to go talk to.
Khajiit as wares, if you have coin.
Now we're gonna start by doing my absolute favorite task, grating cheese. I love grating cheese. Can you tell?
Never should have come here.
This recipe calls for a pound of cheese. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, a pound of cheese, what is that, 16 ounces, right? So I got 2 7-ounce blocks of cheese. What kind of math is that? Go back to school, Chloe. Oh my God. Yeah, I was sick when I ordered all the ingredients for this, so my brain was not braining. You know, I'm gonna be melting this. Why am I grating it when I could just chop it up small? Is that not a possibility here? We're not grating this cheese, we're cubing it. They didn't have cheese graters in Skyrim. All right, so the cheese has been shredded. Now we're gonna move over to the stove and start heating up a saucepan. We're gonna put this pan on medium heat. I got some Chardonnay. It said to use a semi-sweet white wine. I'm pretty sure this is more on the dry side, but it's what I had, so that's what we're using. That's about a cup. And we're adding some garlic, and then 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Now I just gotta wait for it to simmer. So we're simmering. Now I'm going to add in the cheese slowly. I'm gonna turn down the heat a bit as well. It says to turn off the heat, but because I have such big chunks of cheese, I wanna leave a little bit of heat so I can get it to melt a bit quicker. Okay, so while this melts, I'm going to prepare the dipping stuff. And we have some salami and some leftover hot dog buns that I'm going to toast. I almost forgot. I have to add a little bit of nutmeg to the cheese, just a sprinkle. Of course, Drew is here to help taste test.
For the cheese.
How do you think it looks compared to the game?
Pretty spot on. The bowl is the right color. The cheese looks exactly like the image. I think it's nearly perfect.
It smells really good. Grab your medieval eating pick and let's dig in.
I'm gonna start with some bread.
I'm gonna start with the meat. Ooh, yeah. It's really good. The recipe was super simple. I think Drew likes the fondue.
This is so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally melted cheese with wine in it, so how could it be bad? I think I'm gonna give it a solid 9 khajiit out of 10 coin.
I'm right there, exactly the same. I think the texture, I expect it to be a little bit smoother. It's kind of like grainy,
Yeah, I don't know if that's the cheese fault or what.
how that works, but if it was smoother, it would easily be 10 khajiit out of 10 coin.
Next up is Potage Le Magnifi, which is a key recipe in the Dark Brotherhood quest to kill an empire. Now, to my knowledge, you can't make Potage Le Magnifi outside of this quest. You play as the gourmet, which is a esteemed chef that's cooking this soup for the emperor. You can add more like normal items to the soup, like carrots, mead, and meat, or you can add more strange items like vampire dust and giant's toe. And in the actual cookbook, we are given a pretty basic soup recipe, I would say, and there is a little tip at the bottom that says, as the gourmet suggests, you can add different combinations of vegetables and spices until you find the right combination for you. Kind of playing off of that part of the Skyrim quest, I would say. I personally am just going to be doing the basic soup recipe. Maybe we'll add a little bit of pizzazz at the very end, we'll see.
A new hand touches the beacon.
Ooh. We're done cutting, let's move over to the stove. I'm going to add half a stick of butter to this saucepan. Now that the butter is melted, I'm going to add the onion. And it says to add 1 or 2 cloves of minced garlic. So I'm going to add 3 or 4 cloves of minced garlic because I love garlic. Now I'm gonna cook this until it becomes fragrant, which will take about 5 minutes. All right, so the onions are starting to get a bit translucent. Everything is smelling really good. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some chicken broth. The recipe says to use 2 cups of chicken broth and 2 cups of beef broth. I have both of the broths, but honestly, I love chicken broth, and that just sounds so good. So I'm gonna add 4 cups of chicken broth. That way I don't have to open up 2 different broth boxes as well. I mean, as the gourmet says, it is up to my inspiration. No, I wasn't supposed to add it yet. Okay. I was supposed to add the flour first. My bad. Half a cup of flour. We're just gonna do it now. That's a half a cup of flour. And I have to make sure there's no chunks, which that's gonna be difficult because I was supposed to make a roux technically by adding the flour to the butter, but now the broth is in here, so we're just gonna have to blend it in somehow. We're gonna use an immersion blender after this and it'll all get blended together in the end. So the broth is bubbling, it's nice and warm. We're gonna go ahead and add our cup of carrots. And we are going to cook these until they soften. You know what I just remembered? I have quite a few radishes that I need to use up. So I'm actually gonna chop up one of these and put them in the soup. And that'll be my little gourmet edition. The soup has been cooking for about 15 minutes. The carrots and the radishes are both nice and soft, and it has thickened up quite a bit. So now I'm going to take my immersion blender and blend it all until it's smooth. Going to add some salt, pepper, and then give it one more little blend, and then we will be done. Here we have Potage Le Magnifi. Let's give it a wee taste.
A wee taste. Carroty.
It is a very good basic soup. I kind of wish I added more onions. I'm not like the biggest fan of carrots, but at the same time, this isn't that bad. I do like it, but I feel like it needs something else, like maybe some little pieces of shredded chicken.
I think it's a good starter, a good base for other things to be added or dipped.
I think that's the point. I think I'm gonna give it a 6 gourmet out of 10.
Yeah, 6 gourmet out of 10. There's a lot of good that could come from this. but it's pretty plain on its own.
Next up, we have the Horker Loaf, which is made with Horker meat and a salt pile. So it's a very simple recipe in Skyrim. And the recipe in the book is actually garnished with Horker tusks, which are actually cloves of garlic. Now, if you don't know, a Horker is a walrus-like creature found in Skyrim, and I don't think they're very aggressive at all. I think they just kind of exist within Skyrim. But unfortunately, I had to borrow one for this recipe because we're making the Horker Loaf. Just kidding, it's beef. I have a little blender here. I'm going to add some carrots, garlic, and lastly, some oysters, specifically smoked tin oysters. They look gross, but they taste very good, I can assure you. This is supposed to be in a food processor, but I don't really want to get out my food processor, so I'm gonna use a blender. It'll just be a bit more pasty. I think if I do it in short spurts like this, it'll be pretty similar. And here is the final result. So this recipe does call for another recipe called Stormcloak seasoning. I'm gonna go ahead and make some of that. Now, it does require something called grains of paradise, which I do not have. However, I read that it was in the same family as cardamom, so I have some green cardamom, and then I also read that you can substitute different types of peppercorn, so I also have some black pepper. So we're just gonna do kind of a mixture of these two instead of the grains of paradise. I have my blender here again because I only have full cardamom seed pods, so I'm going to blend them up. Dried dill. Now it says mustard powder, but I only have mustard seeds, so I assume a powdered version of this is what they want. And then we're gonna add a few turns of pepper. We're good. Now I'm just gonna add the rest of the fennel. Here it is. Kind of looks like matcha. To a bowl, we're going to add the Horker meat, AKA ground beef. All of our pureed mixture. Breadcrumbs. I decided to go for the panko Japanese style because those are my favorite. Eggs. Cracking these eggs is giving me flashbacks to the cookie speedrun video. Heavy cream, Stormcloak seasoning, salt, pepper. I really should have put gloves on, just now realizing that. I will. Now I'm gonna turn this onto here, and I do have a bit extra meat here, so I'm gonna make a mini Horker loaf, as well as a big Horker loaf. Form into a slightly oblong dome, no higher than 4 inches. Aye, aye. Perfect. Perfectly shaped oblong dome. So I'm gonna add the tusks, which are garlic cloves. The book says that children will fight over who gets the garlic tusks. I am not a child, but I would fight someone for these, that's for sure. And now we have some bacon. I'm going to lay pieces across it like this. It says 2 on each side. Hopefully they stay. It says to lay 1 across the top to prevent the garlic from burning. I think that's what they mean. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to our mini one over here. Then I have all this extra bacon, so I think I'm just gonna lay it on the pan and cook it with the Horker loaf. So this goes in the oven for 40 minutes. Nice. Look at that. Yum.
Oh. Pick it up. Wow. Ooh. I'll have bacon later. The oysters pair really well.
It's a meatball. It's a meatball with oysters in it.
It's a subtle flavor that you'd think wouldn't mix, but it's so good.
It is really delicious.
Is there any Parmesan in this?
No,
There should be
there's
Parmesan.
no cheese.
Parmesan would be even good, even gooder.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
The pork and Horker.
This was baby Horker, this was big Horker. How does it look compared to the dish from Skyrim. It doesn't look anything like it. 8 tusks out of 10 Horkers.
I give it 9 tusks out of 10 Horkers. This is really good.
Wow. We have possibly the #1 most stolen dish in all of Skyrim.
Let me guess. Someone stole your
Sweet roll. Today I'm going to be making sweet rolls in the safety of my own home, away from the thieves. I gotta melt some butter first. Need to set aside 1 tablespoon for later. Okay. 1 cup of warm milk. Why does it have to be warm? I do not know. I know why it has to be warm. It's because the yeast. Melted butter. 2 tablespoons of honey. And also a pinch of salt. I'm whisking this until the honey is dissolved. That looks pretty dissolved to me. Now it says to add 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. This is 2 1/4, but close enough. Let me get my scissors out. Now I'm adding the egg. I'm going to whisk this up as well. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of flour. It did describe it as a batter, so I assumed it was gonna be easy to whisk. I was incorrect. Okay, good enough. I got my little bundt cake pan. It says to spoon evenly. Now all I have to do is let it sit and rise for about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna bake it for 15. The dough has risen. Now I'm going to pop it in the oven. So now it's time to make the icing. 1 tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons of cream cheese. I'm just gonna add the rest of that. 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. Cream that together. Heavy cream. That's the icing. Now I'm just going to go ahead and grab the rolls. This looks really close, I think, to the sweet roll from Skyrim.
Yeah. It's a pretty plain pastry.
The dough reminds me of Hawaiian sweet rolls, which are not very plain in my opinion.
Well, I think I went into it.
It's more of like a bread, and then the icing on top tastes like a liquidy-ish cream cheese icing.
Yeah. I think I went into it expecting cinnamon roll, and that's not it.
It's like a less sweet dessert. So it's kind of like a sweet bread dish as opposed to like an actual dessert. Kind of like a sweet roll. Not me trying to explain the name of the dish.
It is really good.
It is so good. This is getting a 10 out of 10 stolen sweet rolls from me.
It gets 9 Nords out of 10 Skyrims for me. I like my dessert to be busy, and this isn't as busy as I like, but it is really, really good for how simple it is.
And now I'm moving on to a recipe that is perhaps beloved by the Imperials of Skyrim. And this recipe is going to be available on our extended version of this YouTube video, which is available to Patreon and YouTube members. It has other cool perks as well, such as early access to YouTube videos and discounts on our shop and much more. The last, almost dropped my iPad. Skooma, a very sought-after drink by the Khajiit. I don't know why I went like this. A drink that is, of course, made with the illegal moon sugar, producing an addictive but delicious drink. Now, I'm not going to go into more detail about the exact properties of skooma, but let's just say it is Skyrim's version of a very popular item in the show Breaking Bad. Now, I have made the recipe in this cookbook once before, and it's essentially like an infused vodka. To make it a bit more palatable, than just like drinking a shot of vodka. I'm going to make kind of a little bit more of a mixed drink. And this recipe does call for dried apricots, so I also have some apricot flavored nectar that we're going to be working with here. It also says that this needs to infuse for 2 to 3 weeks. We're not going to do that. So I have these dried apricots that I'm just going to cut up into small pieces. Maybe I'll just rip them up into small pieces. And then it also calls for a pinch of ground cardamom. Now I looked up ground cardamom and it looks brown, and I only have green cardamom. So I'm just gonna kind of hope that it tastes the same when I grind up my green cardamom. You can see it's kind of just like the leaves aren't really grinding up. All right, this is what I got. I think I'm just gonna pick out the leaves and throw in the brown stuff. Now I have to make essentially a simple syrup. So I have some boiling water here and a cup of sugar. I'm just gonna stir it until it is dissolved. You can see it is fully dissolved. I'm gonna set this aside to cool and then we will assemble the drink. I have all my ingredients here and I have my shaker. Let's see what we can come up with. I haven't made a mixed drink since Pam's Pina Colada from the Stardew Valley video. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out after this video. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, so wish me luck. Here we have the simple syrup. I don't think I need a whole lot of this. Actually, I'm gonna start with this. So this is the apricot flavored nectar from concentrate. Start with 2 of these big ones. And then just like a tiny little bit of the simple syrup. That is very sweet. And the recipe also calls for a splash of vanilla. So I'm gonna add a little tiny bit of that. And then we have our cardamom. I'm gonna add just like a little bit. And then we have our spicy water, and I'm gonna add 1 shot of that. This is heavy, holy shit. Okay. Almost dropped that. Ice cubes for shaking. All right, I have a glass here. I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. Oh my God. Okay, we have the final drink. I only poured out half of it here. I'm going to add a few of these, the dried apricots. They're just sink into the bottom. Not really aesthetic, in my opinion. And then maybe like an ice cube. Skooma, let's give it a little taste. It is good. It's a little strong for me though.
I'm getting cough syrup. Like the end finish. I want to like it, but like every 3rd sip is just like, that is NyQuil.
It tastes like fruit juice with vodka in it. I think if I just put like the most minuscule amount of vanilla in there and none of the simple syrup, it would have been better.
Probably not drink the rest of it, but it was a fun experiment.
It also doesn't look very close to the Skyrim item because the Skyrim item is just kind of like a jug of mysterious liquid, whereas this is a presented liquid.
Yeah, this is better looking.
So it doesn't look exactly like it does in Skyrim, but I think I'm gonna give this 4 out of 10 moon sugar piles.
I was actually thinking the same thing. 4 seems right. Maybe 3, but I'll give it a 4.
You're just gonna be nice today.
That was several recipes from the Skyrim cookbook. Hope you liked it.
And we'll see you after your next quest, adventurers.